DJI Mini 3 Pro, Q&A with Rick Smith. Got that coming up next. Build a Drone Reviewer here. If you like the content of this video or anything on my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. With that, let's begin. The excitement is at a fever pitch regarding the DJI Mini 3 Pro after it being released today, May the 10th, 2022. On Rotor Talk Live tonight, we had very special guest Rick Smith, and we were joined by co-host Ron Brown, and we had an excellent question and answer session with him about the brand new DJI Mini 3 Pro. So without any further ado, let's roll that clip in its entirety. Rick, how are you this evening?
I'm all right. I'm sorry about that.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
It's one of those nights.
We're happy to have you on tonight. We're just, we're about as excited as you are. Okay. and the level of excitement, Rick, and I got to say this, since I started covering drones and having a channel, I don't think there's been this much excitement about any other drone that I've been around. I really don't.
I agree. I totally agree. And I'll be honest with you. I can say this because I've been flying it for almost 3.5 weeks. It's worth all the excitement. I'm not trying to get you jazzed, but I'm telling you, this little guy is unbelievable in the air. That's all I'll say.
And what we had a pretty good discussion last night when I was on with Ron and Marcus, and talking about all the failed attempts at mini drones, okay? Like FIMI in their failed attempt, and Hubsan in their failed attempt, and Autel's, I'll call it 50-50 attempt, at a mini drone. And, one of the things that I was talking with Ron and Marcus is, when Autel was charging that kind of money, you expected that coming out of the gate that drone was going to be golden, and it was anything but, and it was just nothing but problems. I mean, there was just nothing but problems with that drone since it came out.
Yep. And
then you knew when DJI was coming out with this, and this was like, wow.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've flown all those other drones that you were talking about. And the challenge is building a drone. When you think about a drone in particular, like this thing, I've said this before on your channel. I say it on my channel all the time. This shouldn't exist. A drone like this should not exist. The technology required to get this up in the air, to maintain GPS positioning, to have it stable in the air, to be able to return to home, to film footage, to have a Wi-Fi connection, or in this case, an O3 connection back to the tablet or the controller, the smart controller you're using. It's just so much technology. So when you build a big one like a Phantom, you got plenty of real estate inside there. You can have big circuits. You can have plenty of room to run wires and everything else. That's hard enough. But then DJI took it to the folding drone, right? Which was, again, when that original Mavic Pro came out, I couldn't get past the technology leap from the Phantoms down to the Mavic Pro. But then when they came out with the original Mini, I thought, okay, to shrink down that Mavic form factor into a Mini under 249 grams, they've got to pull stuff out of there. And they did, kind of. The Mini was a pretty good drone to start with, but then they slowly started adding stuff back in. And the challenge, I think, for the other guys you're mentioning is it's not intuitive to go from a full-size drone to this. It's not just a matter of miniaturizing things, especially when you build in things like crash avoidance and you build in automation features like master shots, or if you're doing quick shots. That's a lot of technology. So DJI's had some time to get it right. When you think about it, the Mini SE, the Mini 2, now the Mini 3, they've kind of grown up in that space. And what I love about the company so much is that they're not going to jump in the deep end just to capture some market. Like I felt like FIMI, Hubsan, and to a certain extent Autel are kind of following DJI into the breach. Like DJI is breaking ground with a lot of the features and functions they're coming out with. And I can even tease you about some of the stuff that's coming for this one that's in the future. They're ahead of the curve. And what I find is everybody sees that market develop and they're like, we got to get a product in that space. Go build me a sub 249 gram drone. And that's kind of what happened. And you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be sharp edges on your first gen product. So I'm, again, 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks, I've been flying it. Every time I take it out of the case and decide I'm going to put it up in the air, I'm grinning like an idiot because the butterflies in my stomach and I'm on my toes when I put it up over the lake or over the bay. The thrill is there. It's just an amazing drone.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a loaded question to begin with. Okay,
Yep, sure.
the Air 2S versus the Mini 3. Would you sell your Air 2S?
It's a tough question. So,
I guess.
all right. So the guidance, if there's such a thing, from my good friends at DJI is that the Mavic 3 is their enterprise product. Now, who knows what's going on with Inspires? Who knows what's coming there? But the Mavic 3, for the most part, is pretty much the best drone flying today, I think, bar none. Okay, maybe you could argue that the new Sony product is better, but there's a lot of things you got to deal with there. But the Mavic 3 for foldable drones, the best. The Air 2S, until the Mini 3 hit the market, was my drone of choice. I would take that any commercial flights I did. For the most part, that was the drone. The 1-inch sensor captured everything I needed to capture. But this little guy with the 1/1.3-inch sensor, like I'm doing a clip, I think tomorrow or the next day I'll be posting it, where I've got footage from this. And with the HDR built in, the focusing elements of it, just the camera quality on this thing is phenomenal. So I've had a bunch of people ask me on the channel, is that the drone to do commercial work? I think it is. And I think it's a really tough decision between the Air 2S and the Mini 3. The only thing I'd say between them is the Air 2S, because it's larger, has got better ballast in the air. So when you put it up, it's not jockeying around as much. Now, this will compensate for it with the gimbal. So it'll keep that image straight. But if you're watching the display, you'll see it moving around, fighting that wind up there. So if you're going to be out in high wind conditions, if you're filming around the shore or you're filming out where there's a lot of flat land and big winds coming through, on a windy day, the Air 2S is probably a better choice. But 90% of the work I do, I can fly this thing and it'll fly commercially and I'll get exactly what I need out of it. So I don't know if that answered the question or if I
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. And one of the things that I did, of course, I not only watched yours, I watched Potato Jets, I watched
Yep.
Russ, I watched Billy. I watched them all that were out there. And one of the things that the guys talked about was HDR, and it was real interesting because I think Potato Jet said he was trying to find a button to shut off HDR, and there is no button to shut off HDR.
It's on. It's on all the time.
Yeah. And, one of the questions I had for you is, do you think DJI is going to, in a future software update, firmware update, address that, be able to shut that HDR off?
I think you're going to see a lot of changes in the next couple of weeks when this thing first hits. I was a little surprised that it wasn't in stock, to be honest with you, because had enough notice. It was supposed to launch earlier. They delayed it. I would have thought for sure that it would be in the hands of retailers. And I'm thinking what's holding it up is the software, as often happens, where the product's ready. It's rock solid. I mean, I haven't had a single problem with this from the day I spun it up to today. And I've flown it in completely abusive environments where the wind is real heavy. I've flown it low across water, which is a no-no because of the VIO. I've flown it in really noisy environments where I've got a lot of Wi-Fi interference, and it's just been rock solid. The software I'm using is still beta, as all of us testers have. So there's a lot of features that aren't enabled yet. I've given them a lot of suggestions back, and I'll ask your viewers if they have anything they want to see, shoot me an email, shoot you an email, let me know what it is, because I've got a direct line back to the people that are developing the firmware for it. But I expect that you'll get more advanced controls in the firmware. I fully expect there'll be other tweaks and things in it that you see today on the Mavic 3 and on the Air 2S that aren't in there yet, because the beta firmware is pretty basic.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. One of the questions I got several emails on, and because people weren't able to find this information, is the difference between the standard battery and the upgraded battery. Are they completely different chemistry, same chemistry, or
no? Just different capacities. They're both lithium polymer, so I have them both right here.
Okay.
So you'll notice on the smaller one here, it's got the 249 grams on it, and that's to let you know that when this is in the drone, you're under the 249. That's the larger battery. And it's not thicker. I mean, it's the same exact size, but it's got a better energy density inside. And I think that's a smart move. And I kind of predicted that before I actually got part of the NDA group, where I said I wouldn't be shocked at all if they came out with two versions, one that was a little over 249 that had a bigger camera, and one under 249. What they did instead was give you the bigger camera and then come out with two batteries. Most of the days I'm flying with the heavier battery because I've registered it. I don't really care about the registration. But if you got to stand to the 249, you got to use the smaller battery. But you still get plenty of airtime out of it.
Now, have you with flying with a quote unquote 47-minute battery? What kind of run times you getting out of it?
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. I'll tell you. Here's the metric. When you fly drones as often as we do, you put a drone up and you have this internal clock that starts from takeoff where you kind of lose track of what the battery level is because you're out there focusing on what you're trying to film and you're trying to get that perfect shot. But your internal clock, like your circadian rhythm, kicks in and you go, oh my gosh, I better check the battery level because you've gotten used to how long 30 minutes is or 23 minutes is. With this battery, I'm looking at the battery, indicator, and I'm like, 38% left, 42% left. How is that possible? I've been in the air 30 minutes. You're not going to get 47 minutes out of it, let's be honest.
Right.
But you're going to get a solid, I haven't landed it. I don't bring it down less than maybe 15% left in the battery because I don't want it screaming at me and doing emergency procedures. I'm going to say 40 minutes is pretty average. 38 to 40 minutes is pretty average. So, and of course, everybody out there is going to test it on their own and they'll call BS on me, but it's flies a long time.
Now, one of the things that we joked around with, Ron and Marcus and I, it's like, well, you may run out of room on your SD card if you're shooting that much.
That's true.
I mean, and what a good problem to seriously, what a good problem to have.
I'll tell you, there's nothing about this that I would change. And I say that every time a new drone comes out that I like. But if I were thinking about what I would have designed into this drone, it's got O3. It's got 4K at 60, 1080 at 120. It'll give you 12 kilometers of distance, which, again, I always caution people, don't fly that far because you're violating line of sight. But the rock solid connection in close, because I take it pretty much to the same test areas I fly all my drones. And a couple of those test areas are like thick, like down in the Pine Barrens are thick with trees, and trees are your enemy because they're full of water and water can block an RF signal. So if you come down behind a stand of trees, it'll block that signal like nobody's business. With this one, I can't force it to lose signal. I've tried to trigger the return to home in an emergency. I can't make it happen. So I just think they got everything right with this drone.
Well, one of the things that we talked about, and I'm going to ask you, the RC Pro that came out for the Mavic 3, all right?
Yep.
And then the new controller that came out here with the Mini 3, okay? And a lot of people were like, one of the questions I got a ton of, is compatibility.
Yep.
Is the one with Mini 3 going to be compatible with other ones? And is the one for the Mavic 3 going to be backwards compatible and stuff? And, I said at this point, I'm hearing no, but that's no for now.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions there. To unpack that, it's going to take a minute or two. So DJI's philosophy has always been the Mavic series, the high-end Mavic series, Mavic 2 Pro, Mavic 2 Zoom, now Mavic 3, are a different class of product. And I've tried multiple times to convince them that just because you're flying a Mavic 3 doesn't mean you won't buy a Mini product. So if you're going to make a smart controller, it's not that hard to make it backward compatible with smaller drones. But their stand has always been, nope, that smart controller is really for the enterprise space. Nobody buying a drone like this is going to want a smart controller. So I think the short answer is if they follow that philosophy, that new smart controller probably won't control the Mini 3. Now, the minute I say that, it could come out tomorrow with firmware to do it. There's no technical reason that couldn't happen because that controller talks O3, this talks O3, you're good to go. Having said that, this controller, which I'm more interested in, quite honestly, is O3 as well and backward compatible with O2. So this should, by all intents and purposes, be able to control at least the Air 2S, probably the Mini 2, and maybe even the Air 2 going backwards, which would be wonderful, right? Because a lot of people fly the Air 2S and the Mini 3 and they've got a controller for both. At present, it doesn't do that. Now, one other interesting thing about this controller that's different than the smart controllers is the underlying operating system is Android, but it doesn't boot into Android. Like with the smart controllers, they boot into Android, and then you open up the DJI Fly app. This auto boots right into DJI Fly. Now, you can pull out of it to do some minor adjustments, but in the beta firmware, there's no way to get into Android native, which means I can't sideload programs. I can't do other kind of things that I like to play with in there. So I'm thinking that it may just be because I'm on beta firmware, and I'm hoping that they let me boot into Android and then open up the flight management application like we do on the other ones and scroll through to the drone I want to fly. But right now, this is bound to the Mini 3, and there's no way around it.
Okay. Now,
but I love it. I mean, it's great.
We heard that it has 700 nits. How have you found the brightness outside with that?
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. So when I first got it, I didn't get any manuals. I didn't get and none of the stuff you expect to get when a drone shows up. The beta guys they throw a drone at you and say, good luck with it, right? So I spent a lot of time, digging around, trying to figure stuff out. I couldn't find the brightness on it. And I know that sounds incredibly dumb, but it was at about a third brightness. And I took it out in the first day to fly it, and I'm squinting, looking at the display going, man, I can't fly this. I'm going to be a hazard to navigation because in bright sunlight, I can't see the display. So I'm like, I'm grounded until I figure it out. So I emailed the guys at DJI and they're like, Rick, you dummy, just hold the top of the screen and pull down and you'll get to the adjustment. So once I found that, I could crank up the brightness. And for me in bright sunlight, it's fine.
Okay.
I think it's higher than 700 nits. It's not 1,000 nits, but comparing this to my iPhone, it seems to be a little bit brighter than my new iPhone, whatever this is, a 13 Max. So for me, the beauty of having an integrated controller like this is I'm a lazy guy, so I can plug my drone in, or in this case, the charging hub, charge 3 batteries in the controller and be out the door. I don't have to worry, did I charge this? Do I have the right cable with me? Is this got the right app on it? Like everything is in one controller. So anybody that's thinking about buying this, there's only 2 versions I would consider. Either if you own a drone already, like the Air 2S or the Mini 2, buy it without the controller, because then you can just buy the drone and fly with the controller you've got. But if you're buying it with a controller, do the smart controller, because it's just dramatically different as far as the experience goes. That's my 2 cents.
You know, and this also begs the question, and this was something that was on my list to ask you. Going forward, are we going to see that as an option, a smart controller like this with future DJI drones?
I answered your question before you actually asked it there. What I was shaking my head yes on was I think you're going to see future drones released with some backward compatibility to the previous generation of controller, because there was a lot, and I actually gave them some feedback on this. There was a lot of complaints when the smart controller came out, where people felt like, so I have to buy that as an option. I don't really want the controller that comes with the drone, but you're forcing me to buy that and then buy the upgrade. Why can't I just get it without the controller and choose between the controllers? So I don't think the marketing team understood that well enough. With this one, they hit it, they nailed it, because you can buy it without the controller, you can buy it with the standard controller, which I call the Gen 2, or you can buy it with the smart controller. So that's the ultimate choice. But I think going forward, I don't think we'll ever have a universal controller that'll connect to everything, obviously, because we've gone from, geez, I don't know, we've gone through 7 generations of connection topology, from the original OcuSync to OcuSync 2 to 03. Who knows what's coming next? I can tease you a little bit on that if you want to hear about it. I don't think I'm breaking any NDAs. But I think today with this controller, I'd be very comfortable if this flew the Mini 2, the Air 2S, and maybe the Air 2 and the new Mini 3, because now I've got one controller for pretty much all the drones I fly except for the Mavic 3.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the things that I wanted to get your take on, and I thought this was, DJI has come a long way since I've been around them as far as their marketing is concerned. Okay.
Yep.
And one of the things that I really liked here, Rick, was how they bundle these and the options and putting these things together. I just like to get your take on that.
No, I agree. I think it's great, because when you buy the drone, you get the standard 249 gram battery with it. And then you can buy the Flymore combo. I got it around somewhere. I don't have it in front of me, but the Flymore combo comes with this beautiful charging hub, which we're pretty used to, right? So this will charge 3 batteries at the same time. You can slap them in there. I'll put it in backwards. Slap them in there. It'll charge 3 batteries at the same time. It has the ability to use this as an external charging brick. So it's got a USB-A right there. It charges through USB-C and it charges fast charge. That comes with the kit. And then with the kit, you have 2 choices. You can buy the standard one, which gives you more of the 249 gram batteries if you care about that. Or you can buy the Plus Flymore kit, which includes 2 more of the higher powered batteries.
Right.
So I like the fact that they do it that way. The bag comes with it as well. And I'm being honest here, I've never been a fan of those soft bags. I thought they nailed it with the original Mavic Mini with that foldable case. I really wish they'd have carried that forward, because that to me was the perfect carrying case for the drone.
I like that. That worked out real well when I had the original Mini. I thought they did really well with that. Yep. And now going forward, now, you know, it kind of begs the question. You kind of led into this. Okay, we have 03 now for a, you know, communication system. Going forward, I mean, what how can they improve on it? I mean,
I can share a little with you. I can't share a lot, but when you think about it, what's the most prevalent connection topology today that all of us are using?
Yeah. Okay.
5G.
Yeah.
There's a lot of 4G towers out there. So on the bottom of this unit, you'll notice there's a little flap that opens up. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's the micro SD card slot. And next to it is a host port. That's a USB-C port. So there are plans to have a 4G connection to this. The problem is regulations in the US prevent that presently. but that's something you may see coming soon. Now, that won't be a connection to the drone necessarily, but it'll be a connection to a 4G network. It's not that big a leap to move off OcuSync to some type of 4G connection for a rock solid connection to the drone. The challenge there is what carrier are you using, what kind of plan are you on, how much data is transferred across that connection. But a lot of companies are testing that. So I think that may be where you're seeing it go next. And I think where that's going to come into play, and I'm getting way too far afield here, but when you start talking about beyond visual line of sight, which is something everybody's wondering about, when are we going to get to beyond visual line of sight? Well, it's going to require a much more secure topology and a much more robust topology than OcuSync 3 can provide, because you're flying over horizon. You may fly 2 miles away. You can't do that with Wi-Fi, which is what OcuSync is based on. So that 4G carrier, 5G carrier is going to be something you'll see in the future. I don't think it'll be in the next generation, but it is available for this apparently in other regions, or will be available in other regions. So if they get past the regulatory humps, you may see it in the States as well. One other thing I wanted to mention, I almost forgot, is that the division that builds the drone is not the same division that builds the controller. So with these integrated controllers, it's completely the different division. So syncing those two up a lot of times is a bit of a wrestling match. And I think that's why you're seeing some lag in the firmware for this versus the firmware that comes for your phone.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to ask you too, and because I've seen just this wide band of different delivery dates for the drone.
Yep.
Some of the smaller brick and mortars are saying August, some are saying late June. And I just checked DJI's website, and it says we'll ship on 5/31. So I mean, it's just like, and it kind of begs the question that, and this is what I told people, my advice was that if you want to get it the soonest, order it from DJI. Okay. Yep. That's always a given. I didn't have a choice. I had a $200 gift card from Best Buy. So I did mine through Best Buy, and it's not even showing a date up there yet, as far as that's concerned. What do you think of all these dates and everything that's going on with that?
Well, if you look at them, the different packages have different dates. Ironically, this is the one that's the quickest with the smart controller, or with the RC controller, the DJI RC controller. I keep getting it wrong. I got scolded because I called it a smart controller, but the DJI RC controller is the one that's available the soonest. And I think that's the end of May. If you just want the drone alone, or you want the drone with the original Gen 2 controller, those are the ones that are later in the summer. And I don't know what happened there. I'm sure that the pandemic and the supply chain with chips and all the other stuff that's going on, and the delays with shipping from countries overseas to the US messed everybody up. But I'm pretty sure that some retailers got some stock. Now I don't know how they distribute that. I don't know who gets what first, but I was a little surprised, because when they said the launch date was the 10th and they delayed it 2 weeks, I thought for sure it'd be available on the 10th and shipping on the 10th, because you remember back to the Mavic Pro days. I mean, we ordered the Mavic Pro. Mavic Pro was, 4 months, 5 months waiting for that drone.
Yeah, people were, it was October when it was released, and some people didn't get it till January.
Right. Now, it's not as bad as the V-Copter. I have one in the other room. I spent $100 on that V-Copter deposit, and I think it was 13 months before the thing shipped. So it's not that bad, but we'll be here this summer. And the honest truth is, there's a lot of good options out there. I put a clip up a couple of weeks back where I said, don't wait for the Mavic 3. Don't wait for the Mini 3. Like, buy the Mini 2 and fly it. I still think that's a valid argument. I think you're going to get 80% of the same experience out of the Mini 2 that you're getting out of the Mini 3, except for the larger sensor. Okay, and the cool controller. That's really it.
Yeah, I agree. Because and that's one thing. And it started, and our good friend Original Dobo. He's like, enjoy what you have.
Right.
Have some fun. Have some fun with that right now. Ron, welcome. How are you?
Hello, gentlemen. Good to see you. Good to see Rick back on the show. How are you?
Good. I'm doing great, Ron. How are you, man?
Good. I don't want to interrupt the discussion. You go right ahead. No. I'll just jump right in.
Interrupt away.
Ron, you're welcome to go ahead and ask Rick some questions, because I've been picking his brain for a few here. You're welcome to go ahead and ask them.
Oh, I don't have one on the tip of my tongue outside just a general question. How you enjoying the new drone, Rick?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I was saying to Bill before, it's a perfect machine. It's got everything I want in a drone. The only drawback to it compared to the Air 2S, as I mentioned, is that it's extremely light. So if the winds I'm checking the winds. If they're over 20 miles an hour, I'm not flying it, because at that point it gets a mind of its own if it's got a gust. So you just have to be a little aware of that. It will fight the wind pretty well. I had a situation the other day where I was out flying over the bay, and again, I get giddy as a kid when I put the thing up. I should take a minute and breathe before I actually launch it. But I'm down at the bay and it's sunset and it's like that golden hour. And I'm like, oh man, I got to get this shot. And I put it up, not realizing the wind was at my back. So I take it out. I'm out, I don't know, 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet over the bay, and I'm done. And I turn it around to come back, and I realize I'm fighting a headwind. So,
Right.
you know, and it's coming back really, really slowly. So I had to drop it down at the deck so I'm under the wind to come back. But short of that, I think it flies great.
Well, I'm in New Jersey also, so I know the winds you've been battling the past couple of weeks down here,
Yeah.
especially when you get near the waterways. From what I've gathered, from the specs and watching some of the videos this morning, as well as yours and some of the other ones, I think to me a lot of at least a lot of camera wise, it seems to match kind of the specs of the original Mavic Air 2. It does a lot of things that drone did as
Yep.
for camera wise.
Yeah, it's really close. That HDR makes a huge difference too. I did some low light shots with it, and it's incredible how much detail it can pull out and how little noise there is in that shot. Like, it does a really good job of differentiating between light and dark in very dark environments, which is really difficult to do. But if you think about it, the camera on this thing, I mean, that hood should look pretty similar to a lot of the products that DJI's come out with. I mean, they're wizards in the camera space. Plus, it's got a much heavier processor too. It's 150 megabits a second of video stream back, so it's getting a lot of detail back to the processor.
Right, and that's probably a big jump up on the original Air 2.
Yeah, I think the Air 2 is maybe 80 or 100, if that. So
Yeah,
it's
of course,
almost,
this has a bigger sensor than the Air 2, but again, a lot of the HDR stuff and I saw similar camera specs remind me of the Air 2. And of course, you mentioned the iOS. This has a dual iOS, which I don't understand it completely, but I know that it helps keep the digital noise down as you rise your iOS higher from 100 to 400 to 800. It controls that noise, and that's a very important thing.
Yep. And those are the small details. We were talking before about the competition in the 249 gram space. Those are the small details that take generations of experience to build into a drone. Like, a lot of people ask me, what drone should I buy? What's the perfect drone?
Yeah.
I like DJI. I like them a lot based on their engineering prowess and the years of working with their products and talking to their engineers. But the small things, the subtle things where you can't actually hold one up against another and just compare them on raw specs, because those tiny details of a whole team working on just the imaging aspects of what the drone can do, another team working on the artificial intelligence technology that's built into it, the crash avoidance, there's another team for that, the OcuSync 3 topology, another team working on that. I mean, it's a moon launch, for lack of a better term. So it makes a difference.
I mean, basically a real stuff. It's not your father's mini drone. We've been used to mini drones in the past where they're good drones, but they've had limitations of whatever. Where this, we sort of brought some of the features we have from the professional drones down to the to this level for the first time virtually.
No, I agree. I made the joke before. It's like they left it in the dryer too long. They took an Air 2S and stuck it in the dryer and forgot to take it out, because it's really form factor as well. It's got the two eyes above it, like the Air 2S does for the crash avoidance. I wasn't so worried about the obstacle avoidance. What I really was looking for was the APAS. And I've got some testing set up for this week where I'm going to go out and do some testing for the APAS, because I'm really concerned about that. I want to take it down to the pines and fly it at a tree and see if it can avoid that tree and follow me through the woods. That would be spectacular.
Yeah,
one of the questions I thought about, Rick, and I haven't asked yet, a lot of people were saying, oh, this is probably going to have the GPS issue with the Mini 3. But from what I'm hearing, that's a non-issue.
Nah, it's not. It's not. I have some suspicions of what's going on with the Mavic 3. I don't want to say anything because I'm speculating, but in this one of the first things there are a couple things I tested, and I will share some things that weren't as flattering about it that I'm hoping they fix in the firmware. But let me talk about the GPS first, because the first thing I thought was, okay, it's 03. It's using GPS. It's using Beidou and Galileo. So all three of those GPS to sort of zero in on it. I'm wondering if the addition, because the Mavic 3, I think, was the first one using the Beidou in addition to Galileo and GPS. I'm wondering if they're tripping over each other. Well, this one's using all three. Does it have the same results? And it doesn't. Literally, I'm up to 17 satellites, no matter where I'm at in New Jersey, in 15 seconds, 20 seconds at the outset. And honestly, I know a lot of people say, oh, that's forever. If you're a reasonable pilot and you're a responsible responsible pilot, there's no way you should get a drone out of the case and up in the air in under 15 seconds. You just haven't had a chance to survey the area around you, to look for hazards, check the wind, all the things you need to do. So for me, 15, 20, even 30 seconds, I'll let it sit on the mat. I'll track against those satellites and I'm good to go. But it hasn't been that long. It's been 15 seconds. And
That's great news, Rick. That's going to make a lot of people happy out there that you just said that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep.
Definitely.
All right. So I'll share a couple of things that are troubling, and I'm sure they're going to fix these, but I want to make you aware of them before somebody starts a clip up. And don't buy the drone because it does this. All right. So another thing that concerned me was when you miniaturize a drone like this. Now we've seen it with the Hubsan Xeno Mini Pro. We've seen it to a certain extent with the Autel products as well. You're packing circuitous physics. When they work, they're going to heat up, right? So we saw with the Xeno Mini Pro, when you're doing firmware updates and there's no air passing through it, it gets hot. And I argued at the time, it gets hot, but it doesn't get unbelievably hot where you can't touch it. And honestly, when you're flying it, the air passing the drone evacuates that heat away from it. So you're good to go, not a problem. So I was wondering, how hot does this one get? It gets warm. It doesn't get hot. And again, they've got a plastic enclosure on the outside, but I did notice if I let it sit on the mat for too long and not fly it, like if I set it 10 or 15 minutes sitting on the mat waiting to go because I'm fiddling around with a camera or something, I will get a processor overheat. So my recommendation is right now with the beta firmware, I'm sure they're going to adjust that threshold, but don't let it sit on the mat. Like when you're going to fly, power it up, let it track against the GPS satellites and get it up in the air, and that'll cool it off. It'll be fine. So that's my first caution. The other thing I noticed, and I haven't got a chance to really relay this back to DJI yet, is with the larger batteries, because of the extra weight, in sport mode occasionally, not every time, but in sport mode occasionally, that extra weight of the battery would give me some errors around motor issues, where it's saying motors are being overworked, motors are running too hard. And I'm trying to figure out if that was really just the manifestation of the drone with the heavier battery, or if it was the fact that I was fighting wind. So I'm waiting for the wind to die down. It's been like a tornado here in New Jersey. Once the wind dies down, I'll take it back out and see if I get that same error. But those are the two things I noticed that had me sort of piquing my interest a little bit.
That's good because, and I have to say this, Rick, and you kind of nailed it. Somebody's bound to come up. Oh, big problem, Mini 3, breaking news kind of a thing. Yep. And it's not really a big problem and a big deal. And I want to thank you for bringing that up because, it'll calm some people down when things like that come out. Yeah,
and I get accused of being a DJI fanboy, and we talked about this before on the channel.
We all do, Rick.
I love the company, but I'm a tech fanboy, right? If you build a good piece of tech, I don't care who you are, I'm going to follow you, and I'm going to applaud that. And if there's bad stuff, I'm going to talk about it. I don't really like to do the hack job reviews on the channel. I mean, I get people saying to me, "Hey, I've never seen you really trash a product." That's not what I'm about. When I find a product that works, I talk about it on the channel. If it's something I like, if I find a problem with it that I think they're going to fix, I'll talk about that. But I'm not going to sit down and bash a product on the channel. I'd rather test it. If it doesn't meet my expectations, I'll put a nice note together. I'll send it back to the company with the note and say, look, I tested it. Here are 6 things you got to pay attention to. It's not ready for prime time, rather than bash them. So I did want to point those 2 things out because I think DJI is going to have them fixed with the firmware by the time they release it.
That's good. That's really good. Definitely.
Rick, one of the things that a lot of people are commenting on the videos they've seen of the drone before is the ability of the gimbal to almost go straight up, kind of like our beloved Paradenofi of years ago. Have you? What do you think of that feature?
I like it. There are times where I want to get a shot of something very tall and I can go up and down. Like if I got a waterfall and I'm below it, I like that dramatic pan up and pan down. So I do like that feature. The one thing I still haven't figured out, I guess maybe because I'm an older guy, is the vertical shooting. Like that portrait mode. Like landscape to me is everything because you're getting that nice wide expanse, 83-degree field of view. I'm getting all the beauty and color there. When I flip it in vertical mode, now I've got this like racetrack down the middle with black bars on either side. And it really limits what I can do. Now, if I'm shooting a waterfall or something or a tall building, maybe, but I think that's.
Yeah, Rick, I can't. This isn't a good answer, but I can't explain it to you. It's all because of platforms like Instagram.
Right.
Just last week, their CEO said he wants 9x60. He wants to fill the phones. TikTok fills the phones.
Right.
And it's another one. It's all about these social media apps, just phone apps.
Yeah.
They want you to fill that 9x16 fully. And I guess DJI has taken notice to this, and they're kind of getting into that space. It doesn't hurt you because if you don't want to use that feature, you could just never use it. But it's there for the young TikTok crowd if they want it.
Yeah, I'm not a TikToker, not yet anyway. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just a generation behind on that. I don't know. I'll try it. But
Well, I
so
think
anyway,
See, we're not the generation. It's a whole generation out there, Rick, that live on their phone. This is their only. This is their only computer. Their only way to the internet, and
yeah,
they want that screen filled up.
sure.
And they want
I
to hold
get
it
it.
like this. They don't
I
want
get
to
it.
hold.
You know,
Kids don't hold the phones like this. They hold them like this.
I totally get it. And
It
I guess
doesn't. It doesn't do anything for you and me, but
no,
yeah.
no. But again, it might be an evolution of our species, right? I mean, the kids know what's coming; they're ready for it. An old guy like me, I'm like, no, I shoot everything landscape. What are you doing with the vertical shots there? Even when my wife's taking pictures, if she's doing this, I'm like, turn the phone sideways, get all the stuff in there.
I was saying, remember in our day, it was when our day was somebody took a vertical photo, you right there, that made them amateur. You said, oh, that's an amateur there. They're shooting vertical.
Yeah, since the beginning of time, it's been landscape. What are you doing? But anyway, so the
Rick, I
features
say
in
the
there-
same thing to my wife. Okay,
Yeah.
whenever she's doing that, and I'm like, dear, this way, not this way.
Right,
Okay?
right.
Well, you know, the other app that a lot of people just I've started to use it a little bit more. YouTube Shorts. They shoot vertical, and I really like that as a real short. It's a minute or less.
Right.
And what I've done is kind of like just promos. Hey, Rick's going to be on tonight. Want you guys to watch. We're going to have a release party at 9 a.m. on
Yep.
Tuesday. Want you guys get out. And, you know, and it generates, you know, it gets people. My whole use in this is to get people pointed into some of the beefier things. Okay.
Yeah.
And what you can do is you can drop some teasers in something like this. And I think that will be good for YouTube, for creators like us.
Yeah, I got to get some time to start playing around with it. I've just been too busy and having too much fun flying this thing to really.
I like the way, Rick, that has that button right in there above the cameras up to flip it. You know, it's real very easy.
Yep. It's easy to do.
Now, on the version of the software you've been using, are most of the features enabled, like say hyperlapse and panorama? Is that
those
yet?
Yeah, they're there. They're all there. When I first got it, it didn't do 4K at 60, it 4K at 30. You couldn't do HDR; it was turned off. You know, but again, I'm okay with that, and I'm actually okay if they release it with all the features enabled. I know a lot of people go crazy about that, and I guess the two schools of thought are: if I can get the Mini 3 2 months early with 80% of the features, that's 2 months of me flying it, right? And okay, the esoteric stuff doesn't work; not every bell and whistle's enabled. But if I get a firmware over-the-air update that does that, I've still had 2 months of flying. I didn't waste the summer, right? So get me the drone early. With the beta, I know there's going to be a lot of hiccups. And honestly, when I'm flying a beta product like this, I often worry that there's something not quite right and I'm going to take a dive in the water, right? And then I'm so nervous because I haven't done the unboxing, I haven't done the video, I haven't done this. And I'm thinking, man, if I lose that drone, that's it, I'm done. Plus I have to apologize to DJI, like, hey, put your drone in the bay. But
one of the things I really liked in one of your videos, you explained, and a lot of people don't know about the process. And thank you for taking time to do that, about signing an NDA and what's involved with that, because a lot of people, it's like this big mystery, and you know, it's like the Wizard of Oz, you know, behind the curtain kind of thing, you know, what's going on with that. But you took time in your video to do that. So thank you for doing that. Cause I know, so I get a lot of questions about that. You know, what's an NDA? How's it work? You know, and all that, you know, but thank you for doing that today.
Yeah, no worries. I've spent a lot of time with a long history in electronics with consumer electronics and big companies. I've been on lab teams developing products and coming up with beta products myself. And we have NDAs. So anybody that's involved in a release of a product from the very first day when you're whiteboarding the concept all the way through production to the end signs an NDA, which basically says, look, you're part of the development team. We have huge competitors on either side of the house. If any of this detail gets out, they're going to come out with a press release about their product doing what we're doing. Like, you want to be first to market. So with DJI, it's not every time. I mean, they're a very selective company in who they pick to bring in on those NDAs. And I've been lucky. There have been a bunch that I wasn't involved in, probably a bunch coming I won't be involved in. But on this one in particular, I got the email, and actually it was a phone call. And it's like, you know, it's frustrating, like I said in the video, because you get the call and they go, hey, we got a new product coming. Oh, really? What is it? What, you know, me, I'm a million questions. Can't tell you anything. Can't say a word about it. Sign this paper.
Sign it.
I read the paper, penalty of death kind of thing. So I'm like, all right, I won't crash it. I won't show anybody. My wife doesn't even know it's down here. And then you get the product. But it's a blessing and a curse. Now, I know it sounds, I don't want to sound privileged by saying that, because I feel very lucky that I got to test it. But there's a huge part of me that was thinking the last 3 weeks, I had a pretty good feel for what the Mavic 3 was going to, I mean, the Mini 3 was going to look like. I could have gotten hundreds of thousands of views on speculatory videos on the channel, talking about what I thought was coming, what I expected to come, analyzing the leaks. And instead, I'm under NDA. And every day I'm watching Jasper and 27 Leaks and all those guys with high resolution photos.
Yeah,
And then the other guy got the drone. He's flying it early. And I'm thinking, man, you're killing me here because I can't say a word to anybody about anything, you know? So it's a catch-20, or I should say it's a balance between the two. But
yeah, in this internet-driven world here, it's hard to keep anything secret anymore, you know, worldwide with so much going on the internet. Hey, Bill, can you bring up Barry Markowitz's question in the chat for Rick? He's asking about the controller and you know, lanyards. It's only about 3 comments back.
Oh, I see it. Yeah, there it is. So he's asking about the screw holes in the bottom. So there are 2 holes right there in the bottom, and that is for a lanyard attachment. Now, I'm not trying to do a promotion here, but we have a lanyard that fits. It's the same one that fits on the smart controller. And they screw in right there. We have 2 eyelets, and it's got a really nice lanyard you can use with it. Another curious feature are these 2 screw holes in the back right there.
Oh, yeah,
now,
yeah. What are
they?
Yeah.
No, nothing's been discussed about those yet. But I'm thinking if that 4G dongle comes out, I wouldn't be shocked if it bolts on right there and has a short cable to the host port. But I'm going to use those because we're starting to do a lot with 3D printing and fiber. I'm going to use those with a couple of clever products we're working on. So
get creative with them, yeah.
Yeah, because that's a really nice mount point for a couple of options, different features.
Good.
Yep.
Good. Thank you for answering Barry's question.
Yeah, anything. Now, if there's more of them, let me know. I'll answer them.
Well, one of the questions that I have, okay, you know, it's like one of the things, you know, both, you know, Ron and Marcus and I kind of talk about, okay, DJI's just come out with this incredible product, okay. Is DJI, you know, are we looking at any other things in the consumer space for the rest of this year, or?
Well, I don't think so. I really don't. Now, I've said that, and tomorrow they'll announce something new. But I have no NDAs that are pending right now. I'm not under NDA. This has been released, so I can talk about it ad nauseum. My only suspicion is the really high end, not the commercial stuff like the M30s and a lot of the agricultural drones. But in the consumer or prosumer space, the top of the line right now is the Mavic 3. Now, the Inspire was a great drone. It had features like composable cameras, you know, where you could change things and all that. And it flew longer. It was really a professional drone where you got dual pilots on it, one controlling the camera, one controlling the drone. You may see that on the Mavic 3 as well. But I'm still thinking there's got to be something in that professional space. And I've seen some rumors out there already about an Inspire 3 coming. The challenge with that is it's not for everybody, right? It's for the very top end professional that can afford to drop $6,000 or $7,000, $8,000 between the drone and the camera.
Right.
But for the consumer space, what more do you want?
Exactly.
There's no way I'm going to take an Aspire 3 down to the beach and fly it around.
No.
Yeah, so
the minute you put that up, everybody within 10 miles of you is looking at it, and they're coming over asking you about it because it's so massive. Plus, I have the Inspire 2, and I fly it occasionally. But honest to gosh, it's like putting that thing up. It's like a pterodactyl up in the sky. You know, the way those arms pull up, it's very threatening. So I don't see a need for it. But that would be my guess if they're coming out with anything. It'll be an Inspire 3.
Now, you know, everybody's been the one thing that I've gotten a lot of questions on has been the Pocket. Okay, do you foresee them coming out with a new Pocket?
Oh, Pocket 3.
Pocket 3.
Yeah, I do. I wouldn't be shocked at all if that's probably the next product that you'll see from them, and it would probably be sometime this summer.
And the Pocket 2 is such a perfect product. It's hard to figure out how they're going to improve on it.
Larger sensor. I don't know. I mean, I can think of a few things I'd add to it, but that's what I love about this industry, especially with DJI, because they're always coming out with new innovative products. But as an engineer, I sit down and I think to myself, okay, I just released this product. What the hell could I do to this thing to entice you to buy the Mini 4? Like, what could I change on this to make it sexy enough for you to drop money on the next generation? Okay, bigger sensor. Yeah. 4G connectivity. I don't know if I need it. I don't know if I can afford it. So as an engineer in their labs, I know they're working on future products around drones, but like, what more could you ask? That's a near perfect flying robot.
It really is.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll ask you guys, let me throw the question back to you. What would you like to see in a drone that isn't out there today?
You know, the only things that I've seen comments on would have been like top and side obstacle avoidance on the Mini 3.
Yeah.
You know, which, and you got to say this, okay? for the three of us and most of the people that watch, okay, we're experienced out there. Flying the Mini and the Mini 2 without obstacle avoidance, I mean, it's like a no-brainer for us. I mean, we can
Right.
do that all day long and twice on Sunday. But, for people who are just getting into the hobby and just starting out, obstacle avoidance is probably one of those things you probably want to have. I mean, it's just it'll save you from having to use your DJI Care Refresh.
Yeah.
Those are about the only, and the only other thing is probably people would scream for a 1-inch sensor. I've seen that. Those are the only things I've personally seen, in the comments and all the videos I saw today. What about you, Ron?
Well, the Mini 3 is just brand new, so it's hard to get a gauge yet because people are asking for stuff. They don't even have the drone yet, so they don't even know. Like maybe the sensor on it's going to be fine. But I'll go to the Mavic 3, Rick. A lot of people, there's two things they ask for really. The other camera, the zoom camera, they want that to be, a better camera.
Yeah.
It's only like a half-inch sensor. And if you're not in the 7X, it's not all that clear. So a lot of people would like to see a much improved dedicated zoom camera over what we have now. And from the software side on that drone, a lot of people want waypoints and some features that were missing from, say, the Mavic 2 Pro didn't make it over to there.
Yeah, I think those are great suggestions. Sensor size, well, with the Mini 3, it's going to be hard, right? Because the bigger sensor is going to weigh more.
Yeah.
And I'm finding a triangle of price, size, and features, right? I got
to cooling also, you pointed out earlier.
Cooling's another issue. So with the Mini 3, I think that what this is designed to do, and by the way, I don't think they're shutting the Mini 2 down. I think the Mini 2 is still available, and this is like an upgrade to the Mini 2. But this is like the perfect drone for anybody that's been waiting to learn to fly or want to get into the hobby, or somebody that's a photographer that wants to do some aerial shots, somebody that wants to do commercial work and do roof inspections or real estate photos.
It could be your only drone is what you're saying. It could be the only drone you own.
That's it. I mean, I have a ton of them in the other room. They're on the shelf. This is the one that's in the car with me, and okay, I'll drag the Mavic 3 out if I've got to do some big commercial work where I got to do, 4K and really capture those shots amazingly. But 90% of what I'm doing, I'm going to end up doing on the Mini 3, quite honestly, for commercial work.
Yeah. And of course, you make a good point. You said 4K. It is missing the 5K that the Mavic 3 and the Air 2S have, which that's only important to what a small sector, right? Right.
Nah, it's not worth it. When Alltel came out with the 6K and the 8K, those are marketing bullets. I mean, if you've ever tried to edit 8K footage on a standard computer, the lights in the room dim when you start moving that video. It takes so much energy. It's impossible. And okay, it's great. It's pin sharp, but you're going to render down to 4K anyway for display. And who's got an 8K display unless you're, ultra high end? So I think we're 2 or 3 years off from that. I do agree with you on the waypoints, though. That would be really nice. I think Skydio, if I'm looking at competition, I think Skydio is the company to watch because they don't build a great drone. The drone's average, but their software and their intelligence and their neural networks and the learning algorithms inside that drone, they're a software company. So that marriage of that tech with the DJI hardware would be killer. So I think they could learn a few things from Skydio around those learning algorithms and the waypoints, especially. Now they've got the keyframes, which is astounding. So for me, those are the two companies that I watch and love on a regular basis.
Yeah.
One of the other questions that I got, Rick, and it's just kind of popped into my mind, a lot of people were talking about a DJI Mini FPV.
I haven't heard anything. I wouldn't be surprised though, because if you look at Dobo, and I love Ken. He's a great guy. I've tried to count the curses on his channel a couple of times, and it's like in the hundreds every episode. I'm a family channel. I can't do that here, but I like the guy a lot. And I don't get to Florida enough to fly with you guys. I'm going to be heading down there in a couple of weeks, so I'll let you know when I'm down there.
Okay.
But he flies FPV like exclusively now. I know he does other drone flights as well, but there's a huge market there. And I think with DJI, with the original FPV, was kind of like testing the water to see what they could do. I was surprised it was as big as it was because they could easily put together a smaller FPV quad that would either have a camera or you could add a camera like the the 360 from those guys, Insta360. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Mini from them, a Mini FPV.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, because I think, you said it right. And it was good that they really kind of, dipped their feet in the water as far as FPV was concerned. And, lessons learned kind of a thing was something like that. what worked, what didn't work, that kind of thing, and carry it forward. And yeah, I will definitely, I would not be surprised to see that coming out.
Yeah, and I had a pretty good friendly, but a pretty good debate with Dobo over this, because I think there's a lot of consumers out there that would love to fly FPV, but don't have the chops or don't have the time or just don't have the interest to build their own FPV quad. Now,
Mhm.
hardcore FPVers, they're not going to buy a ready to fly drone. They're going to buy their own motors. They're going to buy a controller. They're going to buy a camera. They're going to solder stuff up and shrink wrap everything. And I applaud that. That's a great way to do it. But there's a ton of people that are looking for a ready to fly drone. And there's a couple of options out there for that. But DJI, with their imaging technology, their connection topology, their control mechanisms, really are in a place to put an FPV together that's a ready to fly drone out of the box. I think they could build a Mini and be very, very popular, because that, to me, that's an underserved market. Now, Dobo has a completely different take on it. His attitude is, if I didn't build it, I'm not flying it. That's it. So I'm like, all right, well,
Well,
I'm not
do you
building
think,
it. So.
and I wanted to ask you this question, okay? And you brought up a good point, Rick, is do you think DJI could put together, say, like a modular kind of a package where, you would assemble, you would have like a frame and then a camera and then motors and,
Yeah, I think they could. They already do kind of have that, right? They've got the FPV camera system, they've got motors, they've got props. So propulsion's covered, controls covered, imaging's covered. They don't make a frame, I don't think, but that's not that big a deal. They're pretty standard frames. So they
yeah,
could do that. It would make it a little easier. If they made it plug and play, that would be better, I think. But again, there's
yeah,
always going to be that there's always going to be that old guard that's going to view anything that doesn't have a soldering iron and some shrink wrap involved as, just not building the drone. So
yeah,
for me, it's
yeah,
about the experience. And if you're watching, I just can't get over how popular the FPV flights have become, the professional ones. If you're watching any sporting event or the racing or the bike rides, even sports now, the sporting events, you're seeing a ton of FPV. And in the movies as well. I'm watching a lot of movies, and I can't help myself when I'm watching like an action movie and I see a complete continuous shot of chasing a car skids into a turn, a guy pops out of the car. That has to be a drone doing that. And sure enough, it's somebody, Johnny FPV or somebody flying an FPV drone for, Michael Bay in Hollywood. Here's a,
oh
here's a
yeah.
kid that a couple of years ago, that tech didn't even exist, right? And
Mhm.
Well,
here's making big money. So
Kelly's, Kelly from Ready Set Drone, he pretty much, his channel is pretty much that's what he does right now, because he's really gotten into the FPV space and
yeah,
really really likes that.
it's a great segment. And I do fly FPV quite a lot. I don't talk about it much on the channel because I don't know, I'm more of a camera drone guy and I'm a little older. So when I start talking about FPVs, all the young guns come in and talk about, okay, grandpa, settle down,
Yeah,
so I have to be a little careful, but I love it. I love it all. So,
yeah,
um,
it's a good thing. And
yep.
Ron, you have any last questions, parting questions for Rick before we
You
wrap
know,
this up?
I think we covered a lot of ground tonight, and we got a lot of good information out there. And I don't have a technical question. Just want to thank Rick for all the work he's done. On reviewing his drone, getting some videos up. I'm sure he will continue with the series of videos to help educate us, especially until we get our drones in our hands. We'll be ready to go, and all the contributions he's made as far as feedback on software. That means we'll have less issues when ours come out because the firmware fixes can be implemented before we get ours. So thank
Yep.
you.
Yeah, no worries. And Bill, if you get more questions or if anybody has questions and they want to send them to me, I'm still working on a bunch of clips. I have about 11 clips started, and I'm trying to post one a day all week to get them up with some of the questions that I've gotten already just today. But I'm working on a top 10 questions and a second version already started, just so
Okay.
everybody out there gets the info they need. Because the whole reason I started the channel, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, was I like tech. Anything tech, it runs on electrons. I'm into it, right? You pop a battery in it, you charge it, whatever. And I love exploring technology. I've been doing a lot with portable power stations lately because there's a lot of interest around that. But I want to give you guys the information you need to make an informed decision when you're purchasing it, because it's hard-earned money you're spending on this gear, and there's a lot of sketchy stuff out there, right? So if I can
Yeah.
help anybody understand it better and make that decision in a better way and save them some money, that's a good thing.
Well,
So
that's why we like you, Rick, because you do it, and I think the thing that I fell in love with is, okay, you get down to the nitty gritty. Okay, you hold no punches about getting in and telling us absolutely everything down to the details, and obviously your engineering background, kind of leads you to that. But I think for me, because I have that technical kind of background myself, I absolutely love it. And I think
Yeah.
that's why people are fans of your channel, because you get into the details and you don't gloss over things. And we really appreciate that, Rick.
Yeah, anytime. No worries. So I always try to give you guys some freebies when I'm on, and I'm going to do the same tonight. So I think I have both your addresses. What we're working on lately, and this isn't a promotion, but I thought I'd mention it, is we came out with a brand new car charger, I don't know, a couple months back. That's a high powered 95-watt charger. And we built it because I couldn't find one that I could fast charge like the battery bank and the drone at the same time. So this
Mm-hmm.
car charger does 95 watts. It's got USB-C. It's got QC built into it. We designed it from the ground up to be like the last car charger you're going to need, which is a boring product. But I'm telling you, when you're in the car and you can plug both of these in on the seat next to you and charge them fast between locations, it's a home run. So I'll send each of you guys one of those.
Thank
That'd
you.
be perfect.
Yeah, we got a
Thank
bunch
you.
more stuff coming for the Mini 3 on the.
I
on the
will
drone
get it. I
guide.
will definitely show it off on the channel. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
you guys
definitely.
talk about it on the channel if you want. That's good.
For
Great.
sure, for sure.
Yeah. But thanks a lot for inviting me. I love talking to you guys.
Rick, it is an absolute
Yeah.
pleasure having you on. It was, it is my tagline. It's a great day to fly. It really was, from the start to finish today. This is third show that I've done today. Ron's been on, all three of them as well.
Yep.
It's just so much fun.
It
And,
is.
it's one of these things, with all that's going on in the world, we can escape, that for a little bit and enjoy our hobby. And I think
and
that's
we've
one.
seen more interest in this product than we have in several releases, Rick.
It's hot. It's a hot commodity. And Bill, I agree with you 100%. Some guys play golf. Some guys cheat on their wives. They all have things keeping them busy. I like tech. You guys like tech. So that's my hobby, flying drones.
And it keeps, as Valerie says, it keeps me out of trouble. Question of the day. What did you think of the DJI Mini 3 Pro Q&A with Rick Smith? Let me know in the comments section below. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, it's a great day to fly.